Hello, my name's Andrew Brooks. Welcome to my YouTube channel. And in this episode, I'm going to be having a press to play chat with my old friend John Heaton and my new friend James Griffiths. I think there's a lot that could be included in an archive for this, because the amount of TV publicity he did for it, you know, the Wogan show and he filmed a special video for press at Abbey Road for the Wogan show. Yeah, there's loads.
What was the show where there was a show where he was interviewed by a child? Do you remember that?
Was that for the Channel 4 The Tube or something like that?
Was it The Tube?
Yeah, some kid in a Trilby hat or something, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I've just got a memory of this kid asking him what his favourite food was, and McCartney saying egg and chips, and just being all kind of, you know, matey. But that was a press to play, you know.
Yeah.
That was part of the publicity for this record. Yeah, I mean, he ploughed loads of time and energy into promoting this record. It was I think he definitely had high hopes for it.
I reckon he was pretty pissed off when George Harrison came back the following year and effortlessly got to #2 in the charts.
Yeah.
I reckon that him.
Yeah. I mean, really bad timing when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of like, because they're so close together, aren't they? Press to play, Cloud 9. You think, God, that must have really rattled him.
Yeah, because for me, Cloud 9 is I know it's not one of John's favourite George albums, but for me, it's probably up there with 33 1/3 and George Harrison.
When it's good, it's very good.
Yes.
Devil's Radio, if that's what it takes. I just hate the single, Got My Mind Set on You. Never liked it. I remember getting it home, putting it on, hearing Jim Keltner's drum entry and thinking, oh God, George has gone 80.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I was going to say my memory of Cloud 9 when it came out was just hearing it and going, God, George is really playing the Beatles card. It seemed like these songs are really Beatlesy, you know, because of the Jeff Lynne thing, probably.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing to say about Press to Play, is that this is the last album, arguably, that McCartney makes where he's actually genuinely just trying to be a contemporary solo pop star, rock star. After this record, because it crashes and burns essentially, and the critics hate it, and he can't go on tour with it, and you know all this. So he teams up with Costello then, and he's like, I need to do something that sounds like the Beatles. You know, George has had this thing, this Cloud 9 thing. I need to get with someone like Costello who will help me, you know. Yeah. And then he goes into The Flowers in the Dirt, and at that point he starts to then trade on the Beatles past again. He does the tour in 1990. He brings all the Beatles songs back into the set, and he sort of goes back to being Beatle Paul. Whereas Press to Play, whether you like it or not, it's the last gasp, I think, of McCartney actually trying to be a mid-80s solo rock star who's not trading on the Beatles at all. He's trying to do Hugh Padgham, you know, in Genesis or whatever.
He's trying not to be the elder statesman, really. I think he's trying to be a hit kid, isn't he, still?
Yeah, and some people might condemn him for that and say, but...
Go on, John.
I was going to say, you can see why he didn't tour on the back of it.
Yeah, there are some good songs on it that would have worked on a tour. You know, but yeah, it's not an album that you could go on the back of. Oh, come on, John. Can you imagine sticking something like Angry or Stranglehold on a set?
No, Angry is one of my. Well, we'll get to it. I hate that track. I would have enjoyed him doing Move Over Busker. Well, let's get to Move Over Busker.
Yeah,
That's
Move
next,
Over
right,
Busker.
Isn't it?
Go on then, John.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's. I guess it's Carlos playing those guitar solo lines. I'm not sure. Sounds like him. I think it's fun lyrics. It reminds me a bit of Average Person from Pipes of Peace, a little bit. I just think it's a fun track, and it's a good bit of light-hearted relief compared to some of the stuff which surrounds it. Should we say that?
I heard he got the idea from he misheard someone saying "move over Buster" or something like that, and he misheard it. and he thought it was Move Over Busker, and then probably thought about him busking for Broad Street, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a song that's grown on me over the years. When I was 15, back in '86, this was my least favourite track on the record, I think. Well, perhaps this and Only Love Remains. I never quite grasped what it was I didn't like about it, but it never really appealed to me. Whereas now, actually, it has kind of grown on me now, and I actually quite like hearing it. So,
yeah,
maybe it was a sleeper.
It's got a bit of ballroom dancing about it as well, I think.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of something that might have been on Ram. It always slightly reminds me of Smile Away.
Yeah, I can see that.
Just that kind of almost improvisatory lyric and just strange, crazy words and just, kind of driving rock feel to it.
Yeah. Okay, well, talking of driving rock, John, you're angry, apparently.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to create an angry track when he wasn't feeling angry at all, and hence it comes across as thoroughly see-through and fake. I don't care if Pete Townsend is playing on it or what, but the words, and then the chorus, angry at the end. Oh dear. Oh.
Well, he's probably achieved his goal if he's made you angry, John.
Well, he's just made me indifferent to the point where I'll never play the track ever again.
Thing is, though, is
harsh, James? What do you think?
Well, I was just going to say, is there not a case of, McCartney is damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't? I mean, he gets so much criticism for being this kind of namby-pamby, writing grandmother's music, rocking chair music, whatever, and then he tries to do something like Angry, and people seem to recoil from it a little bit. And I've always thought, okay, give him his due. He tried to do a kind of edgy, scratchy, aggressive sounding track, and the performances actually are good. It's a song that could have been very limp in its execution, but because he got Townsend in and he got Phil Collins in, and I mean, Phil Collins is a fantastic drummer, and he was always going to do a good job of this track, and it's got a great drum track. It's really kind of propulsive and it's got a lot of energy to it, and it could have been very limp.
I seem to remember the Play to Press bootleg has got a different version of Angry, like a different recording of it totally, and I think his voice sounds more angry on the bootleg than it does on the on the album.
I always wondered if he was singing about Denny Lane on this track. I've never seen any documented evidence for this at all, but when he sings the line something about you're stupid and you're crooked and you're lazy, I've always thought, is that him having a dig at Denny Lane? Because it was round about the time that they were having some kind of legal dispute with each other, wasn't it? Over, Denny had to sell his publishing back to McCartney, and there was some unpleasantness going on, I think, at the time. And I always thought, I wonder if that's a slight dig at...
Good 2 years after the Denny Lane Going to the Sun. I'd be surprised if Paul even bothered to comment about Denny in a song. I mean, in a way, it'd be a compliment to Denny if he did. Like Lennon sang about McCartney on How Do You Sleep. The thing which bothers me about this track is that I honestly think it was not aimed at anyone. And he's singing lines like, what the hell, whatever he's singing. But I honestly don't think, well, does anyone know? Andrew, do you know who it's written about?
No, I was hoping to learn something, but no. I've never seen anything documented about who it was aimed at or what it was about, like anyone in particular.
I mean, it is a McCartney Stewart track, so it's worth bearing in mind that the lyric may not have come from McCartney at all. This might literally just be Eric Stewart.
Yeah.
And McCartney's helped him with the tune. I mean, we don't know, do we?
Yeah, so. it might have been one of the last tracks, and Stewart was angry with Paul for, not letting him produce.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, then Paul should have given him the lead vocal.
Maybe he did, and he thought, this is awful. I'm going to do a better version. Okay, well, going on to the last track from the album, anyway. However Absurd. And James, you said moving away from his beat, this is the last one before he hits the Beatles. I think this is him trying to be Beatle Paul, and not succeeding really. It has got a Beatley feel about it, and I can remember at the time when the album came out, people saying, "Oh yeah, However Absurd, it's very, very Beatles," and I'm like, yeah, it's not really. It's just him trying to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's got the 80s production is very conspicuous on this one, so it maybe detracts from whatever he was attempting to do with that. I don't know. I must admit, I've never particularly thought of it as a very Beatlesy track. I can kind of hear what people mean, but at the time when I listened to it, and for many years after I got the album, it hadn't occurred to me, honestly. Not in the same way that, say, "Let Me Roll It" was clearly, him trying to do Plastic Ono Band. I can definitely hear that.
Yeah.
Whereas this track didn't particularly scream out at me as being, McCartney's trying to do the Beatles again. I don't know.
I think it's just that there's like a sound. I don't know if it's an organ or a synthesizer sound that it just, I don't know, a bit of a dirge really for me.
Well, I think the track starts off sensationally. I love the first verse. I love the reference to dinosaurs. I think it goes on too long at the end, for sure. It quite often in Paul's career, he just doesn't know how to end a song. It's quite noticeable on Backseat of My Car, for example, and on this one, he just doesn't know how to end it. So, okay, so he just keeps it going for another minute. Back to what he was smoking, James, I guess, again, maybe. But I love that line. My favorite line in the whole song is when he reaches for that note and goes, "Everything is under the sun." I just think I love his voice on that track. I mean, when I met Paul outside MPL with you, Andrew, in '87, when he signed Press to Play for me, I said, "However Absurd's my favorite track." He went, "Oh, really? Thanks," or something.
Clearly not his then.
What did you pick that one for?
I mean, it's a 5-minute track, 4 minutes 55. So you think it should have been chopped a minute less?
It'd been a good 3-minute song with no extended whatever the hell it was at the end of that song, which goes on for 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's the album version, and then the CD, if I remember rightly, has a couple of extra tracks on it that you didn't get when you bought the vinyl.
Yeah, track 11 is one that I've always absolutely loved, and it's not a song that gets any love at all, really, in the McCartney world, and that's the song "Right Away," which features, now I don't remember his name, but it features the piano player from the band Split Enz.
Oh gosh, yeah, I did look it up when I did my previous
Now I always thought that it was McCartney on the piano in this one, and I always used to think, God, McCartney is a genius, just the way, because there's nothing to it, this song. What I love about it, it's just one of those songs like Let Him In, where it's wafer thin. It's like a piece of tissue paper. It falls apart in your hand, there's nothing to it, and yet it's so infectious. And when it goes into that piano solo, he's just, I don't know, it just seems like just the consummate kind of pop songwriter drifts into view. It's just one of those daft things. I'm sure we've all got this, in McCartney's catalogue, we've all got these little strange songs that we sort of know they're not great, and we know that most McCartney fans probably don't particularly like them, but for some reason we really love them.
Yeah.
And for me, this is one of those. I can't really explain it, really.
I mean, I obviously I know the track. Can't remember the last time I played the CD, so I haven't actually heard it for quite a few years. When I listened to it on Spotify, it ended at "However Absurd," so it's not even on the Spotify version. With the bonus tracks.
Good melody. I think all three of the bonus tracks have their moments. It's Not True. It has a dreadful chorus, but quite a good verse. And Tough on a Tightrope has some nice bits in it as well. They just, none of them really hang together as songs for me. Maybe they could have been put on the album, but I'm not sure.
I think he was using them for B-sides, really, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Which of those two? I'm thinking one of those two songs dates back to, I don't know, like 78, 79 or something, or am I just making that up? I've read somewhere that one of those two songs, It's Not True or Tough on a Tightrope, were not composed for this record. They were things that he'd had, in the drawer for several years.
I've never heard, so
I could be mistaken. I don't know.
John, any ideas on that?
I don't recall that, James. I'll have to go into my recording sessions book and check out whether he mentions it in that.
I'm just going to see if either of them were actually Eric Stewart composition. Right, so Tough on a Tightrope was McCartney Stewart, so it can't be that one. But It's Not True is McCartney, so it might be that one.
Yeah, I was just looking on here because Tough on a Tightrope and Tough on a Tightrope appears on the B side of Only Love Remains, on a 12-inch, with a remix of Talk More Talk, which is it's a remix.
I've not heard that.
Album. So that again, more stuff to be bunged into the archive release.
I wonder if Eric Stewart will get involved in that. I wonder if McCartney will actually try and involve him at all.
I had heard they're sort of back on sort of good terms these days. Not good enough to work, but
well, in Eric Stewart's autobiography, he said that Linda McCartney was very good to him in the aftermath of the Press to Play album, because they had been socializing together for quite a while and they'd become friends. I think Eric and Linda had become friends, kind of thing. And she felt quite bad, I think, about what had happened. And she tried to keep the friendship going, for a while.
Yeah.
But after she died, I think Eric Stewart implies after Linda died, it kind of just died a death kind of thing,
I think a lot of things went by the wayside after Linda died.
Yeah.
Probably more than what we actually realised at the time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it must have been a terrible disappointment for Eric Stewart, because like I said at the start of the video, he was kind of, I'm not going to say washed up, but 10cc had they'd gone past their kind of heyday by a good long chalk. And
Godley and Cream had left and gone on to better things on their own. And
again, years before. So I think Eric Stewart must have thought to himself, wow, if I play my cards right here, I could be, writing songs with Paul McCartney for the next X number of years. I could be the new John Lennon. And it must have been just a terrible, gradual process of just realizing, actually, this is not going to happen. And this project is going to be seen as one of McCartney's least successful projects. And McCartney himself is going to end up virtually disowning it. Quite soon after it was released, he was basically making public statements about it, saying, waste of time. And going into Flowers in the Dirt, saying things like, I think the quote was, he said, I needed to make a good album that I could go on tour with and not be worried that I had some crummy album dogging the tour. Can you imagine being Eric Stewart and reading that? You'd be like, oh my God. It's like your worst nightmare, isn't it? You work with McCartney and McCartney thinks that the album was crummy.
But he even mucked up going on tour on the back of Flowers in the Dirt, because Flowers in the Dirt came out a long time before he toured the States, which is obviously his biggest market. And I think nearly a year had gone by after the album before he actually toured on it over there anyway.
Interesting.
He still opened the concert with Figure of Eight.
Yeah.
I mean, thing is, would Stranglehold have been a better opener? I think it would, myself. I think Figure of Eight was, well, I'm not saying that either track would be a good opener, but if I had to choose between Stranglehold and Figure of Eight, I would choose Stranglehold myself. But
I choose Figure of Eight, but I think the album version sucks. We're not here to discuss that now, but the live version, it needs to be heavier than on what it is on the album. That was unfortunately produced.
Yeah, it works. I think Figure of Eight works really well as a live track. And as we said to Sam, John, you had to be there because he was berating it on his pod.
Well, I don't know about you, but I don't go back to the live album Tripping the Live Fantastic at all. So I just remember being at those concerts, and Figure of Eight was a good opener.
Yeah.
And he did Rough Ride pretty early on, didn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Just out of interest, I mean, you know, regardless of how you feel about Press to Play, in your memory, when Flowers in the Dirt came out, do you remember listening to that album and thinking, this is a lot better? He seems to have really taken himself in hand now. This is definitely a step up from Press to Play, or do you not have that?
I don't get that. I don't get that.
No.
John,
I distinctly remember loving the colours on the cover of Flowers in the Dirt for a start, and that, as you say, the cover sometimes can influence your opinion of the album. I found Paul a lot more confident. I think My Brave Face is an absolutely brilliant way to open an album. It wasn't maintained all the way through, as we know, but you know, think tracks like We Got Married with David Gilmour and Put It There. You know, this was McCartney back to being somewhere near his best. Not that Press doesn't have its moments, it does, but
I think I saw it as a bit of a progression. You had Press to Play, and then the next album, Flowers in the Dirt. Okay, there was some, you know, some of the tracks, a lot of the tracks were a lot better than the ones on Press to Play. So it was kind of like for me, it was kind of like a progression. I mean, Press to Play for me holds personal memories because obviously being around MPL at that time and the connections with friends that I made. So the album itself is quite for me, it's quite a memorable album personally. Even Broad Street, because that's when I first met some really good friends I'm still friends with today, just from being outside MPL, and Broad Street was for me was the start of that.
Yeah, it's true. I think if you've got a particular personal connection with a record, it can really help. I mean, I've got definite specific memories attached to Press to Play, which I won't go into now because it'd be too much. But you know, being 15 years old and just starting to transition from being a boy into being not a man exactly, but being sort of 15, 16, it's quite a precious time in a person's life, really, and an album can soundtrack that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean,
it was
go on.
No, I think it sounds like it's the same for you, James, as London Town was for me. Yeah, I remember just being so impressed as a 14-year-old, and that's why that and Back to the Egg have such a special place in my heart, because I was very impressionable age, and that kind of age, everything in the top 30, don't you? Or not that we have charts anymore, but yeah.
Someone said to me the other day, charts are irrelevant, and I'm like, well, I suppose they might be. I don't know. Are they still a thing? I don't even know if they still do a top 40.
Well, I read somewhere that Paul McCartney was at #1 recently, wasn't he?
Well, that was in the album chart, but yeah. But I again, just going back to the McCartney 3 thing, I think that was more of I need a #1, and I need a Christmas #1, and I need a #1 because I've had a #1 album in every decade. And if I'm #1 at the end of the year, you never know, I might be #1 in the next decade at the start of. For me, I think that was a lot of the publicity. But I think that's for another chat.
What would have really amused me is if the day before McCartney 3 was released, whoever's in charge of the charts changed the rules and said, we're going to count up your sales and divide it by the number of formats. And it would read number 76.
The album Press to Play, though, there is one other track which appeared on this album up here, recorded at the time, Simple as That, and it appeared on the Charity album, and that was recorded at around the same time as the. Do you guys remember that one at all?
No.
Yeah, I like that track.
It's as simple as that. Yeah.
Simple, makes me want to cry. Yeah, I like it. There's a Ringo track on there as well, isn't there?
Oh, is that? Probably. Again, it's years since I played it, so. I know Bucks Fizz are on it. Great. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's John Cleese, Bill Oddie, and Ringo Starr.
What a stellar lineup.
Oh, and no, Ringo's actually got 2 tracks. Yeah, John Cleese, Bill Oddie, and Ringo Starr doing the Naughty Atom Bomb, and then Ringo Starr has one called "You Know It Makes Sense." Great.
I wonder if Alan Partridge came on at the end of that.
Yeah.
Just one thing more. After Press to Play and before Flowers in the Dirt, he went into the Pepperland project, didn't he?
Return to Pepperland. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I actually like some of the material from those sessions too, but that's a completely separate video, so let's not get into that. But
I mean, there are some good tracks. I think there's a CD, Return to Pepperland, or was it Pizza and Fairies or something?
A lot of the tracks came out on the Ubu Jubu thing, didn't they?
Yeah. What do you think, Tib, of the choice of singles from this album, starting with Press? Do you think it was a good choice? It's probably the strongest one on the album, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Not a lot of better ones to choose from, really. The best of a bad bunch commercially. There was no hit single on that album, let's face it.
Well, I can remember we were in Soho Square. I don't know if you was with us, John, but there was like a little group of us in the middle of Soho Square, nowhere near MPL, and we just stood around chit-chatting one lunchtime, and Paul walked through the square and he joined our little group, and he said, "We've decided on the next single." And we're like, "Oh wow, what's it going to be?" And he goes, "Pretty Little Head." And the silence was like, and he just looked at us and went, "Well, I'll be off then." No, come back. Yeah, we was like, "Oh my God, it's the worst track on the album," and but it turned out all right as the 12.
We should get a few actors in. We should get a few actors in and recreate that scene. Go to Soho Square, have a pull looking like, "We'll all be off then."
Well, I'm sure we could do it an audible version of it. Just get an impersonator, get Sam to do his cheesy McCartney voice.
I wish I'd been with you back in those days, guys. I mean, I'd have been too young, but I don't know. I could have somehow.
Well, I was 20 in '86. I was 20. I was like,
perfect.
Just think, where has that time gone?
I was working in Blackfriars, James, for KPMG. Right. So every lunch hour, District Line, 2 stops to Embankments, 3 stops on the Northern Line, northbound Tottenham Court Road.
Yeah.
3-minute walk to Soho Square. Every lunchtime.
I was just around the corner, just off Carnaby Street in Fogart's Place. I was a BT engineer.
Right, okay.
I was office bound, but yeah. So like every lunchtime, as John said, have a little trip around there. It was usually on a Friday. Fridays were a good day. It was usually a Friday when he popped in. You'd see the car, the blue Mercedes, pull up.
Right.
And sometimes he just walked from Charing Cross as well. Seen him walk arm in arm with Linda, just walking down the street. God, those were the days.
Amazing.
But anyway, that was so long ago.
Once upon a long ago.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks guys. Yeah, once upon a long ago. Was that during these sessions as well?
A bit later.
Just a bit later, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Back on My Feet was one of the first Costello tracks, wasn't it?
Yeah, and quite a good one.
Yeah. But anyway,
there we are. Oh well, thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, chaps.
I enjoy the album. It is up there with one of my favourites. I do struggle with 21st Century Paul, but that's another video, I think. But no, 80s Paul I can cope with. Well, anyway, thanks for joining me on this little chat. I hope the people who are still watching have enjoyed it and had a few beers while we've been drinking ours. And I'll see you probably on Facebook somewhere.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.
All right.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
So thank you very much for watching the video. Thanks to James and thanks to John for joining me with our little chat. Obviously they'll put links to John and James's channels on this video and also down below in the comments section. Please let us know what you think, if you want us to do more, if you want us to do shorter ones or even longer ones. Let us know anyway. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.